survivors in denial, hoping Prince Charming will come along even if they would never admit it, even if they are very successful. And there's some good research and books that really address that. So those are some of the issues that affect, of course, lots of people, but it's certainly an issue many times for women. So let's talk about some of the key differences that we need to consider, because some of them we can change and some of them we can't. First of all, there are some biological differences. Let's just, cut to the chase on that. Women tend to live longer. They are the bearers of children, which certainly has an impact on their ability to work, be in the workforce, the kinds of careers they might choose. And they tend to have disabling rather than terminal disease, which means they live a long time, but they don't live in a state of health. They need care. It's not just longer life expectancy, but this is a statistic that I find shocking. The average age of widowhood is 56 years old. And we'll come to some numbers later that indicate how dramatically the quality of life and income is impacted when a woman becomes a widow. And so the biological issues are here to stay, but they do have an impact. Systemic issues. These are hardened issues that aren't likely to change, but they aren't written in stone. And what we mean by this is that what are the financial systems that we all live by? And in our culture, the U.S. economic system clearly values paid work, it values full-time work, and frankly, it still tends to value work done by men more than done by women. And we know that because the pay gap is really not closing. There's a statistic from the Business and Professional Women's Foundation that says in the last 40 years the wage gap has narrowed by 1/3 of a penny per year. Over the course of her career, an average woman could lose approximately somewhere over $500,000 to the wage gap. So it's significant. Women often take part-time jobs so they can take care of their children or other dependents. They may be staying at home to tend to the home and life outside of work. They may have elderly parents that they're tending to. And so what that does is it leaves them outside the system. You only accumulate really Social Security if you work. Of course, you will be entitled to your husband's, but still, nevertheless, only half of his, because we only contribute Social Security to someone who is working. Also, health insurance tends to be connected to one's employment very often. Disability coverage. So many of the benefits are affiliated with paid work, which, whether you agree or disagree, it does have a disproportionate impact on women. Social Security, of course, considers your highest 35 years of earning, which can be very detrimental to women. You think about single moms who won't have necessarily any spousal benefits. It's difficult. Corporate America prefers to have workers who aren't likely to take a leave at some point. So again, these are systemic issues that are at work and sort of working against women. And then finally, there are these cultural social issues. These are somewhat the expectations and perspectives that our culture has. We tend to be the caretakers for children, elderly parents. It tends to fall more to women. Single women without children are seen as being more available than a male to take care of aging parents. So disproportionately, these chores fall to women and impacts their ability to be in the workforce. There are still stereotypes, and there are social perceptions, and it's depending really and interestingly on the age of the woman. I have spoken with a woman who is in her late 50s. Her husband has retired. She's now the bread how they make decisions and how they manage their resources. I have had advisors tell me on the West Coast that they have young clients in Silicon Valley who are vice presidents making lots of money in the high-tech industry and can't find a date, can't find a potential husband because they make too much money. So there are a lot of social perceptions and varying types of issues depending on the age of a woman that may impact how she relates to money the decisions that she makes, the decisions her family makes around her, her access to education. In fact, there have been some studies in the American Journal of, that were published in American Journal of Sociology, that indicated that parents and teachers, and also popular culture, have been sending a message more based on traditional beliefs to girls, in that sort of sending the message that their career planning and choices is not as important as that for boys. I think that's changing as I look at my television set and read and so forth. Hopefully that's changing, but in the past it has tended to encourage women to take sort of the female track sorts of jobs. And so again, these are all potential issues. Certainly doesn't apply to everyone, but hopefully what you're getting is this framework and context for what's happening when a woman comes to see you or isn't coming to see you, what potentially might be going on in the background. A Merrill Lynch study recently on women asks the question and did the research on what do women want, of course in the context of money. And the first one is interesting, to be financially independent. That was 80% of women found that to be of high importance versus 67% of men. And I think that has to do with, I think that's something men more or less take for granted. There's the wonderful book by Virginia Woolf called A Room of One's Own. And I think it's somewhat that feeling that women have not always had a sense of independence or financial independence. And so it is very meaningful and important. It is more important for them to have money to spend on the things they want. Again, I think that has to do with this issue of immediate gratification. I think it has to do with living more in the present and dealing with the money today. And comfortable retirement, I think, of course, makes sense. That's somewhat that bag lady fear and desire of having worked so hard, either in the home or in the workforce, needing that sense of security that there will be enough and you will be okay and you will have a home and life will be fine. So being financial planners, let's take a look at what some of these differences might actually mean in a very simple sort of mathematical test using some Monte Carlo simulations. Just let's look at a hard difference. So we're looking here at a male who's going to be 25 years in retirement. He has $1 million and 60% of that is in the stock market. Our female, on the other hand, can expect to live 7 more years in retirement. She will have accumulated less money due to the pay gap, taking some time off while she raised children or tending elderly, and more than likely it will be her choice due to fear and a lack of understanding to take less investment risk. I don't have more details. I apologize for her scenario, but I can get that for you if you like. In this very simple illustration, what we're looking at is that the actual sustainable monthly withdrawal rate for this woman is significantly less than the man's because of those factors. And this is not really an extreme presentation. I think those of us who work with single, widowed, divorced women see this quite frequently. And it's not unusual. The Women's Institute for Secure Retirement found that women's median retirement income is only about 58% of men's. This should make you think, you know, when a woman comes into my office, whether she's a single or part of a couple, there are some real issues and things that we need to address. And unfortunately, one of them is a man is not a plan. And unfortunately, there are still women, I think, who believe that, but let's kind of look at that slightly. For one thing, change in status from being married to being single is highly detrimental to women's financial health. After divorce, men do better when women do worse in terms of net worth. Women who are widowed are financially worse off than women who are single. The average income for newly widowed women, their income goes down by 50%, but their expenses only go down by 20%. So again, there's a gap in what's coming in and what's going out that is really quite frightening. Not only that, but for those of us in the business, this is not so good. 70% of women fire their advisor within 1 year of their husband's death. And that's really to the point of the next portion of the presentation, which is what are we doing wrong and what can we do better? I think part of this has to do with when a couple comes in, traditionally attention has been paid to the breadwinner, which may have been the male. There has been a tendency to focus on those goals, and so how do you make sure that you are tending to the questions, goals, issues, stories, etc. of the woman in your office, so that you are building a relationship with her as well? So let's talk a little bit about what changes are needed to the financial advice provided to women. And this is, a relatively short time that we have together today, so I'm not going to belabor these points, but let's look at the planner, the service models, the fee structures, the actual plan itself, our subject matter, how we deliver advice, and how we actually meet with clients. Certainly, we could stand to have more women planners. According to an Allianz survey, women are 2 times as likely to pick a woman planner, but I certainly know a lot of fabulous male financial planners who work very successfully, effectively, and enjoy working with women. But this is simply a statistic, and I think overall women often will be, if they are particularly nervous, that a woman advisor might make it easier and clear some roadblocks for them. One key is to be less focused on the planner and more focused on the client. If a woman walks into an office and it is filled with certificates and trophies and information about the planner, and the planner goes on and on talking about his or her fabulous career, that's less likely to appeal. It may appeal to a man who is looking to make sure he's working with the best of the best, but a woman wants to be heard more often. It is important that she feels she's working with someone who is competent, so I'm not saying there isn't some importance in sharing this kind of information, but it has to do with tone and order of information and how you put your questions together, and making sure that the client is at the center of the conversation. The planner needs to give attention to both technical, the sort of the quantitative aspects of the financial planning and investment solutions, and also to the behavioral sciences. And here, of course, we're talking about some of the things we've already gone over, how people make decisions, sort of what is going on internally, what are their biases, their stories, their histories, their beliefs, and how are those influencing the decisions they make. Women really are looking for someone who is real, who is authentic, and I could say what we mean by that is someone who is comfortable in their own skin and can be a bit vulnerable, can tell their own stories, can connect, is approachable but certainly professional. Emotional intelligence speaks to that ability to have empathy, to listen well, to be able to read a person, read their body language, their facial expressions, their tone, and be responsive in that way. And then finally, I think a very key point is willingness to invest time in the relationship. I have actually heard advisors who say, I've got this woman client and she drives me crazy. She just takes up too much of my time. Well, and the fact of the matter is women like to be educated. They are storytellers. They process through conversation. They learn through conversation very often. And so you can expect to spend more time in meetings, maybe on the phone, when you have women as clients overall. And so one has to be willing to invest in that relationship. Just briefly on service models and fee structures, I don't have anything real specific to say here, and haven't really seen, this would be an interesting area for research, and I haven't really seen any. But I think women want to test. They want to be able to put a toe into the water. I think the initial complimentary meeting is a very important step so that they can experience the environment. I think more of a coaching model is often appealing, whether it's integrated into a financial plan or the investment work, or even just simply having a service called money coaching. I had that for years, and most of my clients in the money coaching model were women. Offering some flexibility, some choice. Women are still learning how to be clients, I think, of financial planners, and Some are very comfortable with an asset under management fee. Some are willing to step up to the plate and pay what we're really worth when it comes to financial planning, and others are still struggling with valuing themselves and their money, so they have trouble valuing our services. And this is something that requires us to be always conscious of the PR role we play to the public and how we talk about the value of what we do and how we have served and helped people. But I think having different models and fee structures, if you're working with women, can be helpful. Retainers, an hourly fee for certain types of service, flat fee. I think it's also more of a matter of offering very clear explanations and making sure you're on the same page. And it'll be interesting to see if we can really begin to get more research and understanding of what appeals to women in this area. I think another difference as you're entering an engagement is how we talk about the goals of financial planning. You know, oftentimes for men, they're looking for that number, you know, that commercial where everybody's carrying around their number. I'm not crazy about that commercial. I don't think that's what it's really about. It's not about a rate of return, and it's not always about having more or having more than somebody else. But that can be the way sometimes we will find male clients framing it. For women, they often talk about, I just want to know I have enough. I want to know I'm going to be okay. They want to know the people in their life are going to be okay. And so these are some of the ways of framing, I think, the goals of financial planning and financial literacy. Becoming financially independent, being able to sustain a thriving life. That's what women are looking for, being able to look out and know, I'm going to be okay. You know, I'm going to be able to do some of the things I enjoy, have lunch with my girlfriends, learn to play golf, whatever it is. Women are very concerned about uncertainty, and we have to just face it and help them face it and talk about how we can prepare them and help them become more resilient. And also they think in terms of life transitions. They are the keepers of those transitions in their families. And those life transitions are everything from their marriage, their own children getting older, going to school, their own aging and becoming empty nesters, having elderly parents, all of the things, children getting married, possibly their own divorce, so many things. And that's how they frame their life, and that's how they frame money. Becoming money conscious, I think, is appealing to women. Very often they talk about sort of spending unconsciously, just having no clue. And there's no question that when you begin to help them become conscious of how money is flowing through their lives, what they have and what's possible for them, it creates a great sense of empowerment and clarity. Very often they want to create a legacy because they are relationship based. And so here's one of those words where you might call it estate planning. That may not resonate at all with a female client. She's thinking of relationships, not taxes. Now keep in mind, you know, we all know so very many very bright women who come in and they want a good return and get rid of my taxes. So this is not a judgment. We are again painting a broad picture to make sure that we are prepared to address the issues that we may be running into. One of the key points, and I've mentioned this in other of my presentations, but I think it's especially critical for women, is this core issue we deal with as financial planners of dealing with the tension between what we want today and what we will need and want in the future. I think for women, telling them and going over this particular tension is very powerful because they live in it. They feel that push and pull of, you know, what the house and the kids need and want today and what everybody's demands are, and that sense that I know we need and will want things in the future. So I think that's a very powerful framing in the financial planning. Plan assumptions are something that we have to take a look at. We've traditionally taken a couple and run plans for them, but I think we have to be more mindful of the different potential circumstances and scenarios they may face as individuals. So we have to consider the longevity factor. And when we do plans, of course, we often have clients say, oh, just, you know, kill me off at 85. I'm not going to make it past that. But the fact of the matter is women do tend to live long lives. but not well lives. And so as financial planners, we cannot afford to plan on the basis of average lifespan. We need to do planning on the basis of the maximum age this client could live if we really want to protect them from running out of money. We have to address this issue and incorporate the everyday goals and requirements of our clients, because these are the things that can frankly come up and bite us when we've designed a fabulous plan and then the client says, well, we really needed, you know, a new roof and kitchen countertops, and my husband didn't have a clue I was going to do all of that, but we needed it, and so on and so on. Camp, private tutors, all of that. So balancing that tension between today and the future. And that leads to the timeline of, you know, there's a lot that happens between the day your client comes to see you very often and the day they die or the day they retire. And so mapping that timeline and those life transitions can be a very powerful story and way of running scenarios and illustrating client situations. We have to take a serious look at actual Social Security, when they should start taking it. If she has worked or not worked so much, we need to be very careful about the numbers we use and not make them up. And then health care costs in later life. The amount that a woman needs upon retirement is far greater than what a man is likely to need, both because she is a higher user of health care and because she will likely live longer. And this is talking about out-of-pocket costs. It's important to illustrate cash flow detail, I think, because very often, particularly for women alone, if they don't have a sense of how to make spending decisions, they can very much spend themselves into trouble, and I'm sure we've all seen it. And so mapping it out and helping them make priorities and wise choices, I think, is really critical, and showing them the impact of the choices and spending they do today and the savings they do today with what tomorrow will look like. And then, of course, as usual, we have to use variability of returns and the Monte Carlo versus just some linear form, which will make things look far better than they will actually be. We have to also consider within the plan some of, again, these inflection points that we talked about. And the other point is to really take stock of a woman's human capital, which for most human beings is by far the greatest asset they will ever have. Their capacity to earn money and as a means for building wealth. And it's very important, I think, to talk to women about the power of their earnings and of planning to work longer and finding meaning and purpose in that. I don't think we've done a great job of that, and it's something that can make a huge difference in a woman's ability to live well for a very long time, is her willingness and ability to work. There's also, as my friend Eleanor Blaney says, we have to add some additional flavors to our standard offerings. We talked a little bit about it in cash flow, encouraging more awareness, prioritizing, helping them actually develop spending and saving systems to make it effortless, giving them good tools. The investment planning needs to be tied to their goals and that goals timeline. It needs to incorporate human capital, be in the context of the plan, and we need to make sure, I think in the case of women, because of the vast uncertainty, that we have accounted for reserve funds both during working years and in retirement. In the case of retirement, some form of guaranteed income that cannot be outlived, a focus on total resources, and just hold that thought. I'm going to come back to that. I think the issue of home and family is critical. Where do they live? Can they stay in their home? Do they know their community, their neighbors? Are there family issues? Are there going to be children nearby who they have good relationships? Are there going to be adult children who still have needs and demand money? And so I think all of these, because women tend to be the givers, even if it's beyond their means, that these things need to be incorporated, and we need to ask about them. This is just a sample of something that we provide our clients, and it goes to the point, very often pictures and stories work better than graphs. And I have a number, particularly of women clients, women business owners, doctors, who love this because it's a way of sort of demonstrating where money has to go. You know, if they're getting a paycheck, it goes into their checking account, they have to pay for their current quality of life and taxes and maybe retirement savings go out. And then they've got to fill these three buckets, which we call the security reserves, their economic freedom bucket, and their dream bucket, which is a way we begin to frame, you know, there are things you need to do and will want to do for yourself, for others, expenses that will come up, replacing a car, and there's that day when you want to be financially independent. And so our clients come in talking about what they have in their buckets, and particularly women get very excited and feel very empowered when they see this and begin to have a picture, a way of framing this whole giant process that can be overwhelming. In the case of retirement planning, again, we talked about guaranteed income, potentially using some form of annuitization, the importance of very careful management of portfolio withdrawals, the Social Security, and the healthcare issues, which we've talked about. And then finally, estate. And I've used this word estate, even though I just told you I don't think it's very meaningful to clients. I think legacy, you know, clarifying your wishes, end-of-life issues, just say what it is. There are estate settlement skills if they are going to be an executor. Giving is often important to them. End-of-life issues for women, they want to know, they want people to know what kind of casket and what songs to sing and prayers to read and who to call and what flowers. You'd be surprised. And they want to share their story. And they want to make sure that what they have in their heart and mind as far as their wishes is really what has been drawn up in the will and other documents. And so again, we want our advice, we want to educate, not just advise, provide some context around it, connect it to the life they actually live, to stories, work in a relational style, and give unambiguous feedback, and also to frequently check in with your client. I want to talk a little bit about this delivery and presentation in a bit more detail. First and foremost is to work in a method of exploration, discovery, and listening. We're helping the client discover what matters to her, what her fears are. We're exploring what it was like for her growing up. Where did she get some of her beliefs? What are some of her money messages? And how are they impacting her in the present? What gets her excited? What kinds of goals might help her make new decisions that are in more her interest? It's important to express empathy and appreciation. Appreciate and highlight what has been accomplished. Women are storytellers. They respond to hearing stories. It's a very powerful way of getting them on board and in the game. And we have to avoid shaming. This is something we have to watch out for with all clients. But you can shame a client and never know it. You can shame a client by simply asking, do you know what the S&P 500 is? Don't ask questions like that. Just pretend they know or don't know and tell them anyway. Just say, you probably know what the S&P 500 index is, but I just want to go over it and just, you know, as a refresher. In that way, you haven't embarrassed your client. I never ask a client, do they know what such and such is? Asking a why question can be shaming. Why don't you have more money in reserve? Why do you have so much in cash? Why do you have so much in fixed income? Instead, it's much more powerful and easier to receive when you say, tell me about your portfolio. I noticed that you have 40% in fixed income. Or tell me about the reserves that you have. How did you come to have this amount? Right? The environment matters. Coming into your office, women do appreciate tidiness and organization and good lighting and beauty. Artwork, having nice chocolates, using a mug or china cup instead of styrofoam, having a selection of teas and coffee, having real cream. These things make a difference. Having fresh flowers, comfortable seating, in an environment that doesn't scream testosterone. It also doesn't have to be, you know, overly feminine or fluffy. but it needs to be real and communicate that this is a place for conversation. It is not an intimidating, overly serious place. It needs to be very professional. Women appreciate visuals. You'll notice that this presentation, I've got a lot of dreary bullet points, but lots of pictures as well. And using metaphors that relate. I often hear advisors use sports analogies, war analogies. I use shopping analogies, grocery store analogies, all kinds of analogies that might have more meaning to women. How you frame a conversation matters, having a pace that reflects their pace, and checking in frequently to see, how are you doing? Do you have any questions? Is there anything I need to go over? Reading their facial expressions. Women tend to be expressive, and if you see their eyebrows go up or a squint or a frown, it's very important that you stop and address it and ask, I notice that you just frowned. Let's stop and maybe you can tell me what that was about. I just finished reading a wonderful book called Switch by Dan and Chip Heath, which talks about how you make major change, either in a person or in a group. And one of the key points that really struck me is the importance of removing boulders. And I think when we work with clients, and women in particular, we actually put boulders in the path instead of getting them out of the path. So for instance, if you ask your client to fill out a 10 or 15-page quantitative questionnaire before you will see them, that's putting a boulder in the path, because frankly, particularly maybe for some women clients, if they could do that easily, they might not even need you. The very act of pulling all of that together can be very overwhelming for your clients. And so how can you remove the boulders that keep them from approaching you? Sometimes I have seen with financial advisors, they present a 2-page action list to a client, which has got to be overwhelming, and very often the steps are not really steps. They're a combination of 10 steps, and the client doesn't really know where to begin. So a manageable action list that is truly actionable and where you can offer very specific support. Your clients, particularly women, are too busy, so find ways to accommodate them, help them calendar the key issues and touch base with them, coach them. They are overwhelmed, so you have to help them focus on what matters most, give small steps and tools to accomplish. It's not because they're not smart. They're very smart. They're just overwhelmed and multitasking. Women are often very stressed, and what soothes stress is a wonderful environment, being able to be listened to, having someone help you sort and prioritize, being appreciated, using appreciative inquiry questions, which we don't really have time to talk about today, and pausing, just letting them take a breath. Giving them time in your office to shift their gears. We have some clients who come in our office a half hour early before our meeting just so they can relax, because it's a comfortable place to be and they know they can have peace and quiet and prepare. Your women clients are often sacrificing for others to their own harm, and so finding a way to connect their values to the plan and the action of finding some alignment and helping them find a way to do what matters to them and protect themselves. And then finally, financial planning can be just incredibly boring, and that can create huge resistance. I have a female client who was so traumatized by it and bored, and very smart woman, that she brought a basket of fun stickers and toys and things to just hold in your hand and play with during a meeting, and put stickers on her financial plan. Ever since then, actually, not just the women, but the men also want to put stickers on their plan. So you would be surprised, as serious as our work is, it doesn't hurt to make it a little bit fun. We're coming close to the end here. I want to talk just briefly about how we conduct our meetings. It's important to create a sense of comfort and trust. We do that by showing concern for the comfort of our clients. Where's the bathroom? Are you comfortable? How much time do you have? What can I get you to drink? I've set out paper to take notes on. Here's a pen, here's a glass of water, here's some chocolates, here's some nuts. Show respect regardless of your client's background, experience, or question. Listen for real. Be vulnerable yourself. I have found it very powerful to share my own occasional money errors with my female clients. It makes them feel that they are not alone, they are not stupid, that they are capable of improving, and it just brings a sense of comfort and actually increases their trust. They need to be appreciated. Women are very resourceful, and they have accomplished amazing things in their lives, and you need to help them appreciate that while you may not have accomplished all you want in the area of money, you have everything you need to do that because you are so accomplished and have handled so many challenges in other areas. They need encouragement to see that the path can be clear and a sense of hopefulness that all will be well. Women also enjoy each other's company. We tend to process, as I have said before in our conversation, it can be intimidating and somewhat lonely and strange to meet one-on-one. And so through our organization Directions for Women, we're starting to do training in how to conduct money circles and group conversations for women clients and women prospects, and also what we call knowledge cafes, holding mother-daughter events, actual retreats, and even webinars. Women enjoy being able to learn without necessarily having to go anywhere. It protects their privacy. It is a gentle way to begin the process. So this is something that I think you'll see more and more of. The other thing that I would say, and I'm going to just pop this up quickly to save time, is that women are interested in a more holistic approach. They don't think of money as the only resource in their life. They have had to learn to become accomplished in many. And frankly, it's the combination of all of these resources that create a thriving life. And so financial capital, certainly, this is what we are most expert in, what we understand, looking at someone's assets, income, taxes, on and on. Human capital is the study of one's capacity for earning income. It's one's wisdom, knowledge, education, training, skills, and again, could be the greatest asset our client has. And so we need to incorporate it. Physical capital, does your client take care of herself? Does she exercise, eat well? Does she have good genes? Did her parents live a long time? Does she take supplements? Does she go to the doctor regularly? All of these actually matter in the context of her financial well-being. Social capital is something that I think is actually more an issue often for men. Women tend to be rich in social capital. They are able to accomplish things without money, such as often child care or elder care or support when someone is sick. So understanding their social capital, do they have close friends, an intimate relationship, community activities? Emotional capital, are they resilient? Do they have energy, or are they in sort of a depressed, anxious state? This is important in terms of their actual capacity to engage in planning. And if they are not ready, then you may need to refer to a life planner, a psychologist who specializes in money, or to just work with them more slowly in understanding sort of where some of these money messages have come from. Spiritual capital, I really mean their own sense of purpose and meaning and commitment to their own development, which is huge. And this is just a framing that I find is very appealing and helps women really go after the financial issues because they begin to see how much it feeds these other areas of their life. I love Parker Palmer's book, and this is to that point, that every life is lived toward a horizon. You must help your clients see the potential of abundance that they have and to look at what they already have, their gifts. And that's what I mean by appreciating and by taking more of a total resource perspective in working with women, and actually I think with men too. So finally, this is our last slide. This is really what I think is key when we are working with our clients, particularly women. They need to feel inspired. They need to see a picture. They need to have a greater vision that things can be better and that they have all the capabilities they need to make it so. They need to be appreciated. to feel empowered. They want to be educated, but not in a demeaning way. And then I believe they will engage with us and make huge strides and be accomplished and truly live lives of financial abundance. So I appreciate your patience in staying on with me. That is all I have. If there are any questions or if we have time for questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for a wonderful presentation. And we do have the first question, and that's going to come from Linda. Linda, go ahead, please.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, Linda.
How you doing?
Good.
I would like to ask you a little bit more about your experiences when you have a couple whose dynamics are that the husband is the breadwinner, he's results oriented, his communication style is very direct and precise, and he wants you to address things in that manner where the wife has acquiesced to him. She is the storyteller and she likes the feel-good relationship that you talked about. How do you flex your communication style so that when he passes away and now you're managing her assets, that she understands that you can address what she really needs?
That is a brilliant question, and it comes up quite a bit. And depending, on the generation, there may be a limited amount you can do while the husband is around. Although I always like to lightly, make reference to it with the couple that they have different styles. We sometimes use a very simple, somewhat lighthearted kind of personality profile, very quick, just to draw attention to the different ways they learn. And whenever possible, I will address the woman in a meeting and use an analogy or a story that suits her, and draw her in and give her an opportunity to speak. Some women appreciate it and will go there, and you can begin to develop a balance in the relationship. And we can also, let the man know that, we're going to get you the boom, 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 the numbers, the information you want in the way you want it. But because you have come to us as a couple, and part of their reason is almost always they want their wife to know someone that they can go to when they die. And so I think that invites us to talk to them about the importance of making sure that she understands what's going on now and has an opportunity to ask her questions and to have understanding. Occasionally, if it seems appropriate, we will ask in the presence of both of them if she would like to have an individual meeting just to talk and approach it a different way. And that's, and so we do the best that we can during his lifetime. And frankly, what I find is that initially in the engagement, the wife in that kind of marriage may be very quiet, but over time, when we get both the husband really on board and more relaxed with us, we are able to begin really integrating her more into the conversations. And I have seen huge transformations where a woman who spoke hardly at all and was somewhat, dominated by her husband in meetings, suddenly has plenty to say, and he's a bit taken aback. But what I'm seeing is her empowerment and her building her own relationship with us. But I agree with you that it's a challenge.
Thank you. That's good feedback.
Great. Anything else? While there's not another question, I do want to let you know, and Harry, maybe there's a place where we can put the website that California Lutheran has for underserved women. And I have a website here, directionsforwomen.com, which is sort of a budding alliance where we are creating opportunities for women to share their stories as advisors and to provide materials, and also to do outreach to women to help them become potential clients and understand the importance, and also find advisors who truly want to work with women. So that will be developing. Any other questions? Well, I certainly thank you. Harry, if you like, I will give you back the presentation so you can go to the next phase of your webinar today, all right?
Yes, thank you so much, Elizabeth. What an enlightening presentation and wonderful commentary about how we can, create that environment for wonderful communication. And it's such an important part of what we do. So, Elizabeth, again, for completing your third one, I'm just so grateful for you doing that. And also, just say thank you again for teaching in the program. So